Thank you for tuning in to Terry Sue Videos. I wanted to talk about this term white privilege that's being thrown around by a lot of people on the left. Now, I think privilege exists, but I think privilege exists based on money, not on race. If any person is rich, they're going to have privilege, whether they're black, white, or Latino. If you grew up in a rich family, you're going to be a privileged person. If you grew up in a poor family, you're not going to have privilege. I think it's completely ridiculous to assume that every white person has privilege. I think it's completely bigoted. And a lot of people on the woke left want to believe that, every white person is this rich, privileged person, when that's not true at all. Most people on welfare are white. Most people who are homeless are white. The ridiculous notion that every white person is this rich, powerful person is completely ridiculous. I believe white privilege does exist, but it only exists with rich white folks. The majority of white people are not rich. The majority of white Americans are not rich. The majority of people in the UK, the majority of whites in Europe are not rich. The majority of white people are working class people. And most of these working class people are living paycheck to paycheck, just like most black people are living paycheck to paycheck. And like I said, white privilege exists, but it doesn't exist in the way that the woke left is saying it exists. The woke left activists, they believe that every white person has privilege, no matter how poor they are, no matter how homeless they are. They believe that every white person is privileged, no matter if the person has nothing. They could be living in a cardboard box, and woke leftists will say this white person has privilege. And I don't think it helps the black youth to constantly tell them that they're a victim. This is one of the problems I have with a lot of people on the woke left, these woke leftist activists. They want every person that's a minority to believe that they're this victim of oppression. Not every black person has the same experiences. I know plenty of black people who grew up in the suburbs, who grew up in an upper class household. Now, I grew up poor. I grew up black. I grew up with a poor single mother in the inner city, just like most black kids in America. But I know plenty of black Americans who grew up rich, who grew up in a two-parent household in the suburbs. So not every black person comes from poverty, and not every white person comes from wealth. So I think a lot of people need to stop judging people based on the color of their skin. Just because a person is white doesn't mean they're this rich, powerful person. And just because a person is black doesn't mean they're this poor person that comes from the ghetto. So a lot of people need to stop looking at somebody and judging them based on their race. We need to start judging people based on the content of character and not the color of skin. A lot of people on the woke left, these woke Twitter activists, have become just as bigoted as any white supremacist is. They've become just as bigoted as the people that they say they're against. And I don't think they realize their own hypocrisy. They don't realize their own contradictions. Because if you're judging someone solely based on their race, then you are racist. A lot of these woke Twitter activists are just as racist as any person in the alt-right. A lot of the woke Twitter activists will go on and on about how racist the alt-right is, but a lot of the people in the alt-left, a lot of these woke activists are just as racist, just as bigoted as any person on the alt-right. Now, when it comes to politics, I'm against the extremists on both sides. I'm against the extremists on the left, and I'm also against the extremists on the right. So I think both sides need to stop the hate. Both sides need to stop the divide. I'm not a one-sided person. I try to look at things from an objective matter, from both sides, both points of view, and I'm trying to be open-minded no matter who I'm speaking to. So I think a lot of people just need to stop judging people based on the color of their skin. Just because a person is white doesn't mean they're this pampered person that gets everything handed to them. And I know plenty of, like I said, I know plenty of people of color who grew up rich, who had everything handed to them, who have a trust fund, who never had to work a day in their life. You think Barack Obama's kids ever had to work a day in their life? Do you think Will Smith's kids ever had to work a day in their life? People need to realize that being poor and being rich has nothing to do with race. Being rich and poor has nothing to do with race. But this is how a lot of people look at it. They think someone who's rich must be white and somebody that's poor must automatically be black. When that's not the case, that's not the truth. That's not always the truth. So I just want to encourage people to start looking at things in an objective manner. Stop being so judgmental. Stop hating white people. Stop blaming everything on white people. And I don't think it helps the black community to constantly blame everything on white people. A lot of these black militants want to blame all their problems on white people. Every mistake they ever made, they want to blame it on white people. Everything they ever did wrong in their life, they want to blame it on white people. I don't think that helps the black youth. When I speak to younger black people, when I speak to young black kids, I tell them they can do anything they want to do. They can be anything they want to be. There is no white man trying to stop you from being successful. And I don't think it helps the black youth to constantly tell them that some white boogeyman is trying to stop them from being successful. When I speak to black kids, I tell them they can be anything they want to be. It's not going to help them if you're constantly telling them that everything is designed against them. That's actually discouraging them from wanting to do anything with their life. If I go to a group of black kids and I tell these black kids, oh, you can't do anything because of white supremacy and the white man, and if I'm telling them all this shit, I'm telling them they can't do anything because of the white man, that's going to discourage those black kids from wanting to do anything with their lives. A lot of these pro-black activists don't realize that they're discouraging black kids. They're discouraging black kids from wanting to do anything with their life. This is why when I speak to black kids, I tell them they can be anything they want. They can do anything they want. There is no boogeyman trying to stop them. This boogeyman bullshit is not helping the black youth. And a lot of these black militant activists, these woke activists, are causing more harm than good. And they don't realize that. So a lot of people have different opinions about this topic. Leave a comment, rate and subscribe.